these race cars to keep them mechanically sound. It's going to be a packed house on that racetrack, but the temperature's a little bit more cooperative than what it usually is, but it is going to be a jam-packed approach to turns 1 and 2 to start this race. And what many hope will be a turning of the tide for how their 2025 season will unfold, kicking it right off with the pole sitter at Mini Tyrell, trying to better a 21st place effort that he had at New River, and he was able to lay claim to that third career Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole. He'll start alongside Tristan McKee when we wave the green silk.
Back in row number 2, two drivers that are hungry for their first win or second win in the ZMAX Cars Tour. Landon Huffman looking to get back to victory lane in a Reynolds chassis, and Doug Barnes Jr. looking to do it for the first time in his career.
Starting back in row number 3, tremendous effort here. We just heard from Chad McCombie. May not pick up that Flowmaster award. He's starting so far up towards the front, and Landon Lewis, defending winner of this race.
And how about two cars that you could argue were the two fastest cars at the end of 2024? Ryan Millington, who turned in a number of great performances. Connor Jones won each of the last 2 races. Mike Darn Racing has looked sharp so far this weekend.
Row number 5 is made up of a couple of drivers off the strong starts this season. Ronnie Bassett Jr. off a podium last time out. Cade Brown in a fast car as well. He rounds out the top 10.
11th goes to Parker Eatman, a champion at the Thanksgiving Classic at Southern National Motorsports Park. And Laney Bice piloting the machine that won the championship last year with Butterbean, starting 12th.
Row 7, Connor Hall trying to go 2 for 2 to start off the year with Junior Motorsports. Outside Nelson Motorsports with young gun Carson Lofton, fresh off a birthday just yesterday.
Landon S. Huffman finally gets a proper start to 2025 as he's in the starting field tonight at Wake County Speedway, along with Carson Hayslip. Been great in the Legends car. Can he do it in a late model stock around here?
Last year's pole winner Mason Bailey got a little more work to do. Row number 9 alongside of Andrew Brady had to miss this race last year. So happy to be back. He rounds out row number 9.
Back in row 10, two drivers that it was a necessity for them to try to get in on time. Holden Haddock, and so good to see Dylan Wilson back in the Cars Tour, making a debut this season with MKM Racing Development.
Feel-good story in row 11. Donovan Strauss, after a hard crash yesterday, gets the backup car. They just got into the race and to tow it back and forth alongside with Chase Burrow.
And then Brandon Pierce, Clay Jones, couple of veterans that'll be trying to come up from the back of the field in row 12.
And scheduled to round out the field, Buddy Isles Jr. and Deke McCaskill, 26 cars strong. As everyone finds their resting place, we hope you're doing the same at home. Strap in. It's going to be an electric 125 laps with the late model stock cars.
Speaking of electric, I hope that is not the problem. They are getting the one-to-go signal from Brandon Willard right now. Clay Jones is moving off the pit lane. Buddy Isles Jr. is still sitting in the pit lane with the hood up on that race car. So will he be able to join the starting field? You can see it on the edge of your shot right there. So just 25 cars to greet the green flag as the ZMAX Cars Tour pace lights will be on the HendrickCars.com pace car. They'll allow Buddy Isles Jr. to put the hood pins down, and it looks like he may indeed be able to join the field as they put the yellow lights on one more time. So this time by Brandon Willard will give them the one-to-go signal at America's favorite bull ring.
Blake, we had a couple weeks to think about how this one was going to unfold. All the theories have been thrown out there. Will it be rough and rugged as we expect? Will it be relatively clean? We're about to find out here at Wake County. Let's go.
We're going to have some great vantage points here with our drone cam all night long as the HendrickCars.com pace car will pull down to the safety of the pit lane. Mini Tyrell, Tristan McKee set to lead us to the green flag. Sit back and enjoy this one from Raleigh. Clean start up front for Mini Tyrell, but Landon Huffman not going to be patient, trying to get the second spot and wrestle it away from Tristan McKee on lap 1. You may already see a little bit of damage on the right front quarter of that 57 Chevrolet, but he has been bragging all week about the speed he's had in this race car. He has been quick and proving it right now. Landon Huffman up to second.
The old adage goes, it's one thing to walk the walk, it's another thing to talk the talk, as McKee now finds safe running room behind McCombie. Huffman has been bragging about this car for the last 2 days, and he backed it up in qualifying. And now you got McCombie to third, outside pole sitter McKee back, as Clay Jones has a moment off turn 4. Race stays green.
And see how quickly these drivers fighting for that bottom lane. Again, the choose will come into play a little bit later on in the night, but not on the initial start of the race. Huffman, though, still about 6 or 7 car lengths already behind the 81 of Minnie Tyrell. You can see Chad McCumbee, much like he did at New River All-American Speedway. This time they're not saving tires, though. They are going full send right now. Top 3 have managed to pull away by about half of the back straightaway over the rest of the field.
Good thing that you bring up tires. I was talking to Mason Bailey, who won the pole for this race last year, and he said admittingly they were still on the ST2 tires last August. He felt like he was quite comfortable there, still figuring out these F45 stars, and he is working his way up through the field. As you see, Tyrell the leader, Huffman running in second, and Chad McCumbee about 2 car lengths off the backside of the 57. This is the battle for the runner-up spot.
No, we mentioned it at the top of the show, but Landon Huffman running a Reynolds chassis. It's a chassis manufacturer that he hasn't run since he was Wilton Nelson Motorsports a couple of years ago when he won at Tri-County Speedway and did a very solid job behind the wheel of that number 22. So went with his own family operation last year before making the move to the Carroll Speed Shop, and again has been very confident in the speed that he's had in his race car so far this afternoon.
2025 started off in a unique fashion with Huffman finishing in 15th spot at New River All-American Speedway, but he has professed his love for this speedway time and time again, and the results prove it. In fact, his race here last year was only his second with the Carroll Speed Shop team. Backed up a great effort where he came from the back of the field in North Wilkesboro to drive up into a top 10 spot here with this same very team. As we mentioned, different car, but not only is he fending off McCumbee for the time being, he's a half second off the back bumper, Tyrell the race leader.
And very quickly going to come into play here. You can see them both running down Minnie Tyrell, but also slowly starting to work their way towards the back of the field. It's only about the back straightaway length or so that Minnie Tyrell has before he approaches Chase Burrow, which would be the first cars that he would try to lap. But again, talk about you can't look away. We very quickly almost clicked away 15 laps of this race.
Go double box with you for the first time. Left side of your picture, the battle for second we can't get our eyes off of. Right side, that's Cade Brown, and in the 4 car, the 04 Ronnie Bassett Jr. I should rephrase that. The black 4 is Cade Brown, the white 4 is Parker Eatman, and New River winner in the 88 trying to work his way down below. He's got trouble. Big hit for Carson Hayslip, who pounds the wall in turn 1.
A devastating hit in turn number 1 for Carson Hayslip. You can see another car that is parked alongside. That is Laney Bice, as well as some fluid that has leaked out onto the racetrack that Mason Bailey took a slip in. And very quickly, caution is out for the first time here at Wake County Speedway.
Carson Hayslip with the window net down. That is good to see. You see the fire there on the right side of the 15. That was just raw fuel from that 15 car trying to get refired in the Logan Clark Racing entry of Holden Haddock. And you see Hayslip now walking over and clearly displeased with Laney Bice after, ironically, both of our starters on the front row from last year's race end up in trouble in turn number 1, as well as Laney Bice in the lead podium performance 03.
You can see, I think, with Hayslip, aside from the distress, I mean, these are really hard hits. We talked about Donovan Strauss. He hung a throttle into turn number 1. They're still going fast here as we take another look at it. My goodness. And you can see Mason Bailey, the front end of his car is destroyed. He caught that inside retaining wall in the pit lane. Oh, and he hops up on the left rear of Laney Bice. They both go into the wall. And Bailey, I thought he slipped in some fluid, but it turns out it looks like he just kind of, unfortunately, caught the nose at the end of the pit wall.
I'm going to try to take a look at that one more time, because from that view, it looked like maybe perhaps Laney was trying to give the 08 the bottom. They're going to come into the bottom of your frame here. Laney's up pretty high there. I mean, I understand Carson's frustration, but it looked like Laney was trying to leave enough room there down to the inside. At least that's my assessment of it, watching it from that view.
As you can see, that car jumps up right in the door of Laney Bice. And then Mason Bailey, you can see right there, pow. And there's the damage done to the right front nose of the 05. And obviously, Hayslip, you can sense the frustration that he has.
Hayslip is someone who means a lot to the facility. In fact, the facility means a lot to Carson. Multi-time winner here, former champion here, and he has dove into the Cars Tour in 2025, came out to New River All-American Speedway with us for the season opener and had a really consistent day. Started 14th, finished 13th, but he considers this to be his home track. And on debut here, he started second, finished 7th here last August, and he ran all the laps at New River, which was the goal, but unfortunately, the rear clip on that car is certainly going to have to be either reworked or redone if that option exists for this family-owned race team. And the Raleigh, North Carolina driver, even though he doesn't have a long haul back home, they certainly have a bunch of long nights ahead of them to get this car back where it could be race ready.
And again, just because we're in tight confines here at Wake County Speedway, a little bit of time for the crews to get these cars hooked up and towed away from the scene of the accident. It's allowed Hayslip to take a long assessment of everything in that race car. In fact, it looked like he was conversing with the fans there for just a moment that are part of the trackside parking in turns 1 and 2.
Laney Bice had a great start to 2025 in New River as well. Started in 12th spot, picked up a top 10 effort. Blake, you touched on it earlier on today in our qualifying coverage. Is the general vibe from the Lee Pulliam team. That is the same team that won the title with Brendan Queen before he went on to compete with Pinnacle Racing Group on the ARCA Menard Series side. And by all types of dialogue that you could have with the organization, they said not only having Laney around in the pit area as their driver, but the entire entourage that Laney brings, along with her friends and family. It's been a really warm and welcoming vibe, albeit so soon and early into the 2025 season. And even though New River went according to plan to get a solid result, there appears to be some pretty extensive damage on the left side of that car. We'll see if she can get it back to the pit area, if they can get it repaired. And Blake, should this end up being a trend for this race tonight, we've seen cars minus body panels and fenders work their way up into top 10 results in Cars Tour races before.
Yeah, I mean, just think about a couple of weeks ago, right? Season opener, Ryan Millington. I pretty much had the exact same situation. Someone jumped up on the left rear quarter panel of his car, and he ends up somehow bringing home that car into a 5th place effort. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. There's a lot of body work that is sheared off the side of that car as well as Carson Hayslip. But we've seen crazier things happen before down there in that pit area as we are back under the caution flag. Hayslip able to drive away from the scene of the accident.
The left side door being gone on Laney Bice's car reminds me of Chase Burrow at Southern National last year, where he ended up driving back up into a top 5 finishing result, minus some body work on the side of the car. As the field, well, I should say as the team begins to assess the situation for Carson Hayslip, as he is quickly out of the car, and he's actually making his way over, I want to say past the Lee Pulliam team, and he is continuing to run his way down the pit lane. Keeping eyes on Hayslip from our vantage point. There you see him talking to some of the officials at the end of the pit lane before making his way back up towards his badly stricken race car. Well, it didn't take long for tempers to potentially begin to boil. Haven't quite boiled over just yet, but as he gestures to Laney Bice on the way back to his car, all of the thought that this race could be a bit physical, it only took about 15 laps to start to see tempers flare. And
again, you could see it's not just the cars that were directly involved in this accident that are down in the pit lane right now. Chase Burrow took a hard left-hand turn. His car is pointed towards his trailer. They're still having an issue. I think Buddy Isles Jr. as well has had some problems as we chronicled on the opening pace laps. He brought his car down, but I believe has rejoined the field. And yes, indeed, the Flying 11 is back on the racetrack. There you can see Chase Burrow. They pulled the hood off of that car. And typically, Eric, when you see that car kind of take that hard turn towards the trailer, it's usually the indication of something that's gone a little more awry. And unfortunately, they may not get necessarily the amount of time, but they're going to put the hood back on it. They're getting the 2-to-go signal this time, or the choose signal this time, rather.
Boy, for Chase Burrow, who did not make the field at New River All-American Speedway, now coming out here to Wake County, making the race, said on his social media, we made the show, but we got some work to do. They are pushing that car back, as you see Chief Starter Brandon Willard offering up the 1-to-go signal. They took the choose last time by, and Doug Barnes Jr. wants to play the role of the gambler. Remember, at the caution, Landon Huffman in the 57 was running second. He elected to restart behind Mini Tyrell, and Air Doug is going to take his car to the top for this restart.
Remember last August, there were a couple times that we saw some drivers take that outside line, and it paid off. Will that be the case for Doug Barnes Jr. as he lines up alongside Mini Tyrell, who has led the opening 15 laps? He'll try to lead 16 right now. We're back underway at Wake County. So far, so good for Doug Barnes Jr. hanging on tight, but not going to be enough to fend off Mini Tyrell for now. Tyrell maintains the race lead, and now Barnes tries to stop the bleeding if he can try to get down in front of Huffman.
Connor Jones also took the shot in the outside of the white 44 behind Doug Barnes Jr. in the 88 as Barnes and Huffman almost come together on exit at turn 4. They almost rub doors again down to turn 1. Double wide for second on back. It's Landon Huffman in the 57, Doug Barnes in the 88, and Huffman will reclaim second place. Oh, look at Barnes trying to slam the door on McCumbee.
I don't know if Chad McCumbie's going to take too kindly to that. It allows Connor Jones, though. He nearly gets by Doug Barnes Jr., who's trying to hang on. He may have the run to get it down into turn number 1. Does Connor Jones clear down? No, not for the moment. However, further on back, another driver that chose the outside. It worked for Ryan Millington. You can see he's rejoined up here, so he was able to net a couple of spots out of that restart. This is the battle for third behind Huffman and Mini Tyrell, who looks well on his way to try to challenge the Factory Canopies most laps led award tonight.
You can see how much this spot means to Barnes. This would put him in that coveted third position, which could matter a lot should we have another caution. Let's remind our viewers, even though it only took 15 laps to get the first yellow flag of the night, if we run 45 consecutive green flag laps, we will see a competition caution. Only exception is if that brings us inside of 15 laps to go. Barnes still in command at third. McCumbee now trying to follow him back by Connor Jones.
Also worth noting for all these fans out there, we talk about tires a lot with this series and the fact that they've changed compounds. This was the final race in 2024 in which this series ran the ST2 tire. They switched to the F45 after the Wake County race late last August. We are back on the F45 Star tire, which is a little bit different. As you can see, Connor Jones slot his way behind Chad McCumbee. So McCumbee now up into the 4th position. But again, still not really a consideration, though. You talk to these drivers, they are not saving at all. They are going 100% for 125 laps.
And as we start to peer back through some of the running order, this is the battle for 15. Carson Lofton to the 22. Look at Ronnie Bassett Jr.'s right front fender. Caved in, not on the Hoosier tire, but enough potentially to upset the handle and balance of that race car. As this race goes on, some of these cars in the midfield are going to start to show some blemishes of their hard work. And the third place finisher at New Rivers already got himself a bit of a battle scar on the front of that car.
That's a car that started in 9th. It has now fallen back into the 16th position is the way things run right now. But every run that we have taken off, Mini Tyrell has just driven out to his own zip code. You can see about 3 or 4 car lengths or so back to Landon Huffman. But again, Eric, we have seen kind of, I want to say, the rumblings of a run like this for Mini Tyrell for quite some time. You think about Tri-County and how dominant he was last year. Had an incredible run at Dominion Raceway going. This has been what this team has been building so much over the course of the last half of the year. In 2024, I don't think anybody's surprised to see Mini Tyrell up front right now, second race of 2025.
And we got a caution, turn 1 again. This time it's Andrew Grady who has gone around, and the 11 of Buddy Isles Jr. also involved with damage to the front end.
That has been the trouble spot all weekend long, whether it's practice or the race. As you can see, Isles, a little bit of damage on his car. Looks like Andrew Grady, a little bit of damage in the left rear quarter, but not going to be anything that looks to be too detrimental to his day. They pull out just in front of the HendrickCars.com pace car and will be slowed for the second time in Raleigh.
Man, I got a glimpse of this coming down the front straightaway. And ironically, our first caution came on lap 15. This one comes on lap 30. So we've gotten a couple of 15-lap segments. This is going down to turn 1. Looks like Grady had some help. First car behind him may have been that of Brandon Pierce. I believe that's where the initial contact came from, and Isles just went up the racetrack to try to avoid that to come to a stop.
And I'm wondering, just right there, you can see Mason Bailey has some more damage. I think just as they passed our speed shot right there, Bailey gets into the back of Buddy Isles Jr. checking up for that wreck, and that's unfortunately what puts the 11 into this one. You can see the nose damage, but I think he got tagged from behind with all those drivers quickly trying to slow down. All right, let's hear more from James Pike.
Bailey came down after both incidents. The first time there wasn't that much damage to the right front. It was just cosmetic. The hood was bowed in a little bit, but tape all over the front end. This time, heavy damage to the right front of Mason Bailey's machine. Lenny Bice is going back out onto the racetrack. They replaced a brake hose and refilled it with some fluid on the left front. Meanwhile, here at Buddy Isles' machine, you see that right front very towed out. Heavy suspension damage to that part of the car. A little bit of cosmetic damage to the left front as well, but they're looking at that right front wheel well. That's where the majority of the damage is on Buddy Isles Jr.'s machine. We have not seen Andrew Grady come down pit road after that incident yet, but standing in from pit road, I can see a little bit of cosmetic damage to the left rear, but not much for him. I imagine he'll try and stand out on the racetrack.
Thank you, Pike. And at least what we can see from our vantage point, Chase Burrow has brought that car down every time they've taken the hood off. They've put the fans on it to try and get that car to cool down each and every time that they've brought it down the pit lane. And then as they get the 2-to-go signal, they put the hood back on and allow that car to roll back on the racetrack. He also just mentioned Laney Bice, who is back on the racetrack. She's going to officially be scored 15 laps behind the race leader as things stand right now. But again, Eric, how much did we talk about, especially throughout last season, about getting every point possible? How about Connor Hall at North Wilkesboro Speedway last year? All the thrashing that team did to give him a chance to fight for that championship at the end of the year. May have come up short, but all those points, they add up.
And you never know when that night is going to come as the field hits the choose this time by. But you could end up in a situation where maybe even if it's not for the championship, it could be the difference between finishing in the top 5 in points, in the top 10 in points, or maybe being in a position in owner's points. If you have to fall back on a provisional, should we have another heavily populated field, as we see for the second restart in a row, Doug Barnes Jr., who is running third at the time of the caution, is going to elect to try the outside on Mini Tyrell and battle him for the race lead.
Going to try it once again. Again, we mentioned further back, you can see Ryan Millington there on the outside. He was able to net a couple spots doing so. So a couple drivers taking advantage of that outside line. You can see Connor Hall as well as Landon Lewis up there in the top lane as they work their way into the iRacing restart zone once again. A great launch on the outside for Doug Barnes Jr., who appeared to be ahead, the nose of his Toyota just ahead of Mini Tyrell. Oh, and they're going to make contact. Barnes gets shoved up wide, and Tyrell will stay in the race lead. Doug Barnes Jr. is going to try to stop the bleeding in front of Connor Hall.
A little bit of a misstep by Tyrell, getting off into 3 the last lap. Got up and doored the 88. I bet Doug will remember that one. Back to the battle for second. Huffman in the 57, Connor Jones in the 44, and Chad McCumbee, who started 5th, running 4th. Trying to get up to a podium position, keeps the fender inside of Jones off 4.
Trying to hold it to him, but don't know if he's going to be able to still stay down there. Jones trying to find the drive off the corner, and this time he's going to be able to do it. Clear down low, says the spotter for Connor Jones. And Jones, we've talked about a number of times how impressive he was late in 2024. He's looking just like they didn't miss a beat. Got caught up in a wreck. Oh, and here's another one. Dylan Wilson around. Donovan Strauss is involved as well. Third caution of the night at Wake County Speedway, and it involves Dylan Wilson.
Well, we didn't necessarily make it 15 laps on that run. First caution came lap 15, second one lap 30, this one lap 34, as Dylan Wilson making his first start of the season. And Donovan Strauss, who we documented some of his troubles so far over the course of the last 24 hours. Here's what happened.
Another look, and it looks like contact with another 4 car in Parker Eatman. So Strauss just arriving to the scene of the accident late. He'll check up for it. And again, timing and scoring will go back to the last completed lap, assuming that he is not deemed as involved. There is some damage to the Liberty Nican Chevrolet for Donovan Strauss, but I think that's the culprit in terms of the incident that sent Dylan Wilson around. You can see a little bit of a buckle on the nose of Parker Eatman's Southern Bank machine.
Yeah, right above where the Chevy emblem would be on the front end of that Mike Darn Racing cars, where you can see that damage has been occurred. And the tough news for both of these drivers, that was the battle for 12th. It was a great run for both cars at the time of the incident, and this is going to set them back in a considerable fashion. As you see Ethan in here trying to find his running spot in the running order. We'll see where he falls once a decision may be made. Let's go down to Pike for more.
Dylan Wilson is stopped right by the exit of pit road down towards turn 1. They're pulling out that left front fender. Picked up a little bit of damage in that incident with Donovan Strauss. I saw the hood boat in on Donovan Strauss's machine, but not significant damage. Otherwise, they're still working on Mason Bailey's machine as well as they try and fix up what is a very torn up front end of the 05 pole sitter from last year.
Now again, Mason Bailey still on the lead lap as it were scored. He was able to get back out there for the restart, but of course they're going to take every opportunity with the amount of damage that you can see to try and fix that car.
Caught up with Mason earlier. Believe it or not, this is probably one of the oldest chassis in the field. This is a 2015 car that they entered with this organization, and he says we try to operate like a true race team. In fact, his car owner, Chris Phillips, not here tonight, watching along from home, along with his father-in-law, who's been a bit under the weather, so our thoughts are with Chris Phillips and his entire family. But Mason is someone who races with a ton of heart, and he's not the only car that's got some bodywork missing by any stretch.
Again, that is Lainey Bice, who, as we mentioned before, that last green flag was 15 laps behind the race leader. I believe she's going to receive the free pass, albeit she was the only car that was scored a lap down as a part of running in this field. So I think we'll go back down officially to 14 when this caution is all said and done. And crazier things have happened. Maybe she could get all 14 laps back. It could be that kind of night at Wake County.
As they hit the shoes this time, it will be Connor Jones being the first to jump up, then Ryan Millington, and then Doug Barnes Jr., who I think may have been secretly hoping that he had a chance to line back up alongside the 81 of Tyrell after it was contact between those two that drop-kicked Barnes temporarily for now out of the top 5. It'll be Tyrell and Connor Jones the front row for the restart, then Landon Huffman and Ryan Millington, row 3 Chad McCumbee and Doug Barnes.
Chase Burrow, as we've chronicled a couple of times, going to get rolling back as they have taken the opportunity to cool that car down every chance down pit lane. So far, the Heat Wave hot lap for the fastest time turned in this race. You can get that to Clay Jones right now, a 12.374. Right now, Jones riding around and trying to gain some spots, driving up from the 18th position. Pace car is down, and we're back in the iRacing restart zone. And this time it's a great launch to the outside for Connor Jones, who brings Ryan Millington along with them, but nobody has had anything from Minnie Tyrell yet.
And once the door's left open, it's up to the inside line to keep trying to walk on through it, and that's what Landon Huffman is trying to do in the battle for second spot. Inside of Connor Jones, McCumbee and company trying to follow suit. Jones now will duck to the bottom to protect third.
And again, that's smart driving there from Connor Jones. Whether you challenge for second or lift to try and get behind Landon Huffman and see if you can get a run on him. He may have just done that off of turn 2. Millington, though, mentioned a couple of times that outside lane has paid dividends for the black and yellow car in the Leisure Time Reynolds Chevrolet. But right now, Cade Brown on the inside, not letting him down. And by the way, Doug Barnes Jr., Connor Hall, 288s racing side by side right behind him.
And you can see the level of intensity by all the cars strewn together on the inside line as Connor Hall ducks in behind his fellow 88 competitor. And Doug Barnes Jr. up in the top 10. Everyone trying to keep the nose inside of whatever car they can kick up to the top. Almost like a car that you would see get kicked out of the Talladega draft. Here's the fight for second.
Connor Jones, Landon Huffman side by side in the 3 and 4, but right now Connor Jones looking to be just a bit too strong, especially off the exit of turn 2. That's where he's been a little bit better than Huffman these last couple of laps. Connor Jones clear to second, and we'll see with a little bit of clean racetrack in front of him what lap times he can try to match for Minnie Tyrell. Meanwhile, Millington has found his way back to the bottom. Connor Hall gives him the lane, but Connor Hall, great drive off of 2, is going to keep the spot, but he tags the wall.
And Hall, so far, doesn't appear to be too worse for the wear, but that car is very sideways off the corner. Obviously, the Hoosier lettering is gone on the right rear tire.
Oh, McKee, he was looking 3. He thought about it. Have to wonder, too, a hit like that, knocking the toe out of the right front. What does that do to the Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet.
I am starting to notice a little more rubber being visible on the left rear of Connor Hall's car. Not sure if he may have shifted the rear end at all or if that's the result of some other body work on the left rear quarter panel.
Tristan McKee, who started in second, quickly fell back almost outside of the top 10. He looks to be a little bit faster than this 15 right now. He's hoping he can get by. But again, you can't forge 3 wide here. It's simply not possible. It's not going to work. So despite the fact you can see the drive, he gets off at 2, but he just can't keep your nose down there because you're just asking for trouble if you make it 3 wide.
And as McKee continues to exercise some patience, he's starting to get pressure from behind. That's Carson Lofton in the 22. And how about Landon S. Huffman, the Pinnacle Racing Group number 28? Fresh off of having to rebound from not being able to make the race at New River. They picked up a new associate sponsor in the True by Hilton Garner Raleigh. They held a big event for the race team last night, and he's knocking on the door of the top 10.
Remember, Connor Hall, again, Tristan McKee is just knocking on the door, wants to get by, but Connor Hall, Ryan Millington, you can remember Hickory last year. These two drivers don't necessarily get along, and Connor Hall making life about as difficult as you possibly could on the outside right now, and this has allowed the rest of the field to drive away as these two have been locked side by side for a number of laps. McKee almost caught the wall in 1 and 2, and Millington, he's still going to shove that nose in there.
It was known all throughout the offseason, once the pair was announced, the combination of Connor Hall and Junior Motorsports, as Hall gets the spot, a little bit of bumper tag behind him, that this group and this driver would be potent. Any chance that this field can get to try to shuffle him out of line, they'll take it, but Millington cannot maximize on the opportunity just yet.
Haddock, you can see there in the 15. He may have caught a piece of the wall. He almost catches Landon S. Huffman. In fact, he does. Huffman up the racetrack. He saves it. He'll lose a couple of spots as a result. Just talking about Landon S. Huffman, as you mentioned, started at about the 15th position and worked his way up a couple of spots. And then now, how about the comeback kid, Donovan Strauss? It is that type of season for this number 4 already early in 2025. Got spun late, was able to manage a top 10 at New River All-American, and driving his heart out, albeit very sore from the impact he took when he had a Hunt throttle in turn 1 yesterday. He and this Hettinger Racing team are fighting, and now he's hanging on to it as he gets shoved out of the way. Strauss saves it, still trying to gather it up right in front of Dean McCaskill.
Oh, McCaskill played the role of the good soldier there and lifted big time, losing a number of spots to not plow into the back of the 4 of Strauss as he caught the car off 2.
Strauss going to have to recover from that. As you can see the gap from Mini Tyrell to lap traffic that is just in front of him. Look at how well that 81 drives in, how much deeper it can get into the corner. But this is where it's going to get tough. 69 laps to go. Mini Tyrell's got lap traffic. He's got about 4 or 5 car lengths to play with, but Connor Jones is going to be there quickly. 3/4
of a second was the gap a lap ago. This time by Connor Jones got a 1/10 of a second as Mason Bailey with a sportsman move on both of the front 2 drivers. Now Tyrell looking over the back of the rear bumper. Oh, right in front of him, there's contact, and Grady's got a flat right front tire.
He's going to be able to make it a pit road, though, so we stay green. But as you can see, flat tire for Andrew Grady. One of the racetracks he looks forward to coming to more than any other on the Cars Tour schedule. And unfortunately for Grady, it is not going to be the result that he would have hoped for. Meanwhile, through that lap traffic, the gap is down to a car length. You saw it on the interval on your screen a little while ago. Under half a second for Mini Tyrell and Connor Jones.
Next up is going to be Buddy Isles Jr. minus the hood on his race car after coming to the attention of his crew to early and to start this race. Tyrell clear of the flying 11 as we inch closer to the iRacing halfway point with Tyrell winning the pole, now trying to lead it halfway and maybe take over top honors for leading the most laps.
As far as the best time is concerned, the Heat Wave hot lap is still Clay Jones, and imagine with some of the fall off that we've seen tonight, don't know if that is going to be matched yet again. But Mini Tyrell right now, a little bit of space in front of him. We just talked about that car up the road from the 81 a moment ago. Deke McCaskill had to check up for Donovan Strauss, who is getting back going in the right direction. But Tyrell pulling up to the back end of Deke McCaskill right now as they're leaning on each other out of 2. This is Landon Lewis in the 29, Holden Haddock in the 15.
A little bit more contact off of turn 4. Lewis and Haddock continue to run side by side. They continue to just about bounce off each other. This is the battle for 11th position, just behind Carson Lofton, who rounds out the top 10. And Lewis wants to keep the fender inside.
And again, this is where these local drivers at Wake County do such a good job. As you can see, Haddock gets a little bit of a nudge from Landon Lewis. But these local drivers, they know exactly, I can run in that second lane. I know exactly where to run. I know exactly how to cross you over off of turn number 4, and that's exactly what Holden Haddock does. Lewis will try it again off at 2.
Boy, for all the fans who came out to the Wake County Speedway tonight, and those of you watching along on Flow, this is certainly compelling action, and it's taking place all throughout the field. A little bit of smoke there now as Lewis gets tagged.
I don't, if Lewis can get back to him here, it may not end so well for Holden Haddock, but he may be saved by the fact that Landon S. Huffman may try to file in. What is Lewis down to the 1? He gets back into the 15, but they have to avoid Doug Barnes Jr., who spun. Clay Jones involved as he spins off the nose of Donovan Strauss.
Doug Barnes Jr., who was running 6th at the time, turned around backwards to draw caution number 4.
Barnes running up in the 6th position when this happened. Landon Lewis and Holden Haddock exchanging some hand signals. This one is getting good from Wake County. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. The second half of the race is up next on Flow. Well, if you're here at the racetrack, you can visit our merchandise trailer trackside all throughout the 2025 season, including schedule and tee hoodies, crew necks, lifestyle tees, hats, and much more. Or, of course, you can scan the QR code on the screen. We'll leave it out there for a few seconds so you can get it with your phone, pull it out, and take a picture of it. You can shop online at carsracingtour.com and click the shop tab. All new merchandise is available and on sale, remaining with 2024 designs, novelty items, and much more. So make sure you get some Z-Max Cars Tour merchandise. There's some great work that's being done with that, some great designs. I know I have to stock up on it, and I pretty much pass that trailer and usually grab something every single weekend that I'm at one of these races.
It was hard to get something there today because the line pretty much wrapped the whole front stretch catch fence. There were so many fans trying to get an opportunity to grab some of that Cars Tour swag in 2025. Let's jump down to Pike.
It is a very, very hectic pit road here at Wake County, just as hectic as it is on the racetrack. Ronnie Bassett Jr. came in. They had some right front damage that was primarily cosmetic, pulled that out away from the fender. Then Doug Barnes Jr. waited to come in and then came in and almost blocked pit road for Carson Lofton. Lofton's crew frantically came and they tried to pull Barnes' crew away so that Lofton could get in. We don't know how much they got to fix on Barnes' car. Meanwhile, Lofton is in pits and they've taken off the carburetor on Lofton's machine, so they're looking at the intake trying to figure out if there may be an issue there, but it is busy, busy, busy down here on pit road at Wake County.
And we can feel it, Pike. I mean, the action is intense to watch from our vantage point. Can't imagine how many times you've had to spin around to keep up with the action, and you've pretty much updated us on every car that has come down the pit lane. Here's Steve McCaskill coming back out. And Blake, I'll tell you, Brian Schaefer picked up our Strange Oval Crew Chief of the Race Award last time out at New River. I think whatever driver that could go on to muster up not only a race-winning effort here tonight, but maybe to come back in what could turn into a race of survival. We hope not, but all of the crew chiefs and team members are certainly earning their stripes tonight.
Yeah, and you know that coming into a race like this, there's a good possibility that these types of things will happen. Again, we've talked about it every single time that the Medic Corporation Toyota has been on pit road. You can see the fans out there doing all they can to try to cool down that race car. Again, Burrow fell a lap down in the midst of that last run, but they're doing everything they can to keep that car on the racetrack, and luckily they've had a couple of yellows where there's been a little bit of cleanup, so it's been a little bit easier for them to try and accomplish that feat.
So work continues for the car of Chase Burrow that remains on the pit lane. There are several cars in the racetrack like Laney Bice, Mason Bailey, the 11 of Buddy Isles Jr. that are missing some body panels, maybe even the hoods on their race cars. And oh, by the way, we still got a little less than a half of this race still to go. They're going to hit the shoes this time by, and first time tonight, Landon Huffman wants his shot. 56 laps to go, and Huffman, who was running third at the time of the yellow, is going to jump up and alongside Minnie Tyrell for this upcoming restart.
And we saw Connor Jones a number of times elect to go to the outside, but this time it is Landon Huffman. Seems to be, if you're that second car in line, third's good enough, but if you could try to get it done on the top side, it's just nobody has had to drive off the corner with the control of the restart like Minnie Tyrell has. 1 to go, signal from Brandon Willard, Minnie Tyrell, Landon Huffman, Connor Jones, Cade Brown, and Chad McCumbee, your top 5, followed by Connor Hall, Tristan McKee, Ryan Millington. How about Holden Haddock and Landon Lewis, which that can get pretty interesting for the 10th position as they were doing just a couple of laps prior. 56 to go here from Raleigh. This one could be done in a flash, or perhaps not. Let's find out. The HendrickCars.com pace car will pull down to the safety of the pit lane as Minnie Tyrell will once again bring the field into the iRacing restart zone. Perhaps a bump and a nudge from Landon Huffman as they go down into 1 and 2. Huffman trying to hold strong on the top side.
Might have avoided ducking behind Tyrell if he wanted it, but he elects to stay up alongside. Tyrell defends the battle. Huffman slices back to the inside, but can't get underneath Tyrell as they go to 1. Contact there off the corner.
And a huge stack up that accordions all the way throughout the field, but again, that outside lane choice, a successful one for Landon Huffman as he gets up into second. Now Connor Jones trying to hang on to third. Connor Hall looking for a way down to try to get up into the top 5. Can Brown accomplish the feat? Not this time, down into turn 3.
Brown was trying to come down across the bow of Chad McCumbee as Connor Hall may have caught the wall again off turn 4. He's still trapped up to the outside. Cade Brown maybe clears McCumbee. McCumbee slices to the inside and shoves Cade Brown wide.
It's a tough thing about Wake County Speedway. If you give a shove, you want to get away, and they're not going to get away. Connor Hall's involved as he jumps up on Cade Brown's car. They scatter around. They're still rolling in the right direction, but that was Cade Brown trying to return the favor to Chad McCumbee. Connor Hall may have gotten the worst end of it.
And Connor Hall so far has been able to survive the 2 strikes that have been thrown his way. May not survive the third one. Landon S. Huffman shoving him off into the corner.
So Connor Hall trying to hang on. He's got a little bit of damage on the right front fender. We chronicled the fact that he may have brushed the wall off of turn 2 a little bit earlier in the race, knocked that toe out, and now McCumbie's starting to struggle on the top side.
Less than 50 laps to go here in Wake County, and the gloves are off throughout the field. Back to the battle for second. Here's Huffman and Connor Jones.
Talk about all this action going on all over the racetrack. This is where Connor Jones has been great. Off of turn number 2, sets up the move into 3. Huffman trying to hold him tight. much like you would have seen him do at Wake County Speedway over the last couple of years. Off of turn 2, Jones, once again, it's the south end of the racetrack. Turns 1 and 2 that Connor Jones has been good. Huffman, meanwhile, it's the north end, 3 and 4 that he's been really strong.
All going on about a second and a half behind the race leader, Mini Tyrell, as Huffman's been doing a great job fending off Connor Jones off the corner. Jones only able to get up to the numbers, and Landon Huffman will defend the spot for now.
And again, you can see 1 and 2. Jones just that much better, but with how strong Huffman has been in 3 and 4, he's just able to hold him off for the time being, albeit the fact that these two battled has allowed Mini Tyrell a several car length gap, about the entire back straightaway he has in the lead. And then how about this car venturing into the picture once again, the Gamebridge Chevrolet of Tristan McKee in the number 7. We chronicled the fact that he started on the front row, fell back to about 10th, and now he's starting to catch this battle for the second position.
And McKee is starting to catch them in a hurry. They have not gained any ground on Mini Tyrell. In fact, Tyrell got 0.3 of a second more in the battle for the lead. As now here comes Connor Jones, looking again to the inside in turn 3. Huffman gives him just enough room to try to draw even on the front stretch, as it'll be 40 to go next time through. And Jones now with the edge off the second turn.
This is where Jones has been better. They stay side by side into 3 and 4, but perhaps this time it may be a little bit too much. And if you're Huffman, you also have to know that Tristan McKee is on the march just behind them. Jones clear off of 2. He'll have the spot. Does Huffman give him a little bit of a nudge? You can see the hands working hard trying to save that car, but Connor Jones hangs on.
And they are losing buckets of time to Tyrell. The lead now up to 2 3/4 seconds. Tyrell is set sail, but is quickly catching the tail end of the field, so the rubber band effect may be in full swing here. If these three could settle it out for just a little bit, but now Huffman's got pressure from McKee.
And again, very spread out, as you mentioned, behind Tristan McKee in the top 5. You can see Laney Bice soldiering along. That is the ground that Mini Tyrell has made up. 2.7 seconds of an advantage that the 81 car enjoys, but now, as we mentioned, starting to get into lap traffic.
Next up the road is going to be Chase Burrow, who's been plagued by problems pretty much all night long. As you see Tyrell get by Laney Bice without incident. 35 to go at the line. And Tyrell, since catching the tail end of the field, lost 0.2 of a second a lap ago. This time he was able to stabilize the margin. 2.6 back to Connor Jones.
Again, 35 laps, that's 7 minutes, and Mini Tyrell can try to hang on. You can see Burrow, they've elected not even put the hood back on the car, but still trying to finish, as he will go yet another lap behind your race leader in Mini Tyrell.
Mini Tyrell, one of the most unique and passionate personalities you will find in the Cars Tour pit areas. Clay Jones dusted off the wall in turns 1 and 2. He keeps it straight. We stay under green. But for Mini Tyrell, 2024 was a career year, 3rd in championship points. Although he tasted victory just about week in and week out, he never quite fully got to wrap his hands around it. Could tonight be the night that he returns to Cookout Victory Lane? May not love what he sees out the windshield. They're double wide, 3 cars ahead of him.
Yeah, and they are racing hard. That is Clay Jones and Deke McCaskill, 2 people that are very familiar with this racetrack. And Tyrell's going to have to try and find a way around. It may even be the outside that Tyrell will have to navigate. But I think he made an interesting point in his pole interview with our pit reporter, James Pike, a little bit earlier about the fact that, yes, it is tough to get to the racetrack, the financial costs and everything. As Strauss has a problem, he enters the pit lane. Now there's contact further back between Cade Brown and Landon Lewis. Now Doug Barnes Jr. on the march. He's trying to recover from some of the spots he lost in his earlier spin.
So here's Brown now. Lewis trapped up to the outside. Barnes trying to close in. Great comeback so far for Barnes. Back up into the top 10, looking for more. This would be 9th with the 4 of Strauss just behind him. As we continue to see pretty much a white trail of smoke continue to roll off the backside of Landon Lewis's car, as Tyrell is gingerly working his way through the tail end of the field, and he's lost about half of his race lead.
And it's about half a second that he's slower. He was down into the 12.5, 12.6 second bracket. As you can see, as he has caught this lap traffic, he was able to hit a 12.7 that last time. But plenty of drivers that are being very courteous to him as well. You can see Buddy Isles Jr. get out of the way. Deke McCaskill being very orderly there, allowing him to get away. But can Connor Jones get through some of that traffic easier? There's another problem. That is Landon S. Huffman, who has pulled it down to the pit lane, and it looks like there's a fire on the right front brake rotor of that race car. So brakes overheating, it would appear, for Landon S. Huffman. There's a number of mechanical issues. Saw Carson Lofton just a couple laps ago. He's back on the racetrack. He's 15 laps down, though.
And how about the job of Mini Tyrrell's spotter to warn him of Landon S. Huffman having to dive to the pit lane in what is not only Landon S. Huffman's first trip to Wake County with the Cars Tour, it's the first trip for Pinnacle Racing Group to come to this facility as Tyrrell continues to lead. Clay Jones in the 1, Dylan Wilson in the 32, door to door just in front of him.
And Tyrrell able to get around Dylan Wilson in a debut performance with AKM Racing and Development, a part-time driver, but he said, you know what, after testing and practicing all week, man, it gives me the bug again. As Landon Huffman gets on by, he'll take over the second position once again from Connor Jones. It is still, though, over 2 seconds, right at 2 seconds for Mini Tyrrell over Landon Huffman. But again, the sand of the hourglass is running out for Landon Huffman, inside 20 laps to go.
Dave McCaskill has taken his car down to the pit area. His night is going to end prematurely as now Huffman and Jones find themselves trapped behind Chase Burrow and Mason Bailey, trying not to lose more ground to Mini Tyrrell. 2 seconds now the advantage from the race leader back to this battle for second, with McKee now throwing his name into the mix.
And again, it gets a little bit easier for Tyrrell. He's got about 7 or 8 car lengths in front of him that he doesn't have to worry about lap traffic before he would catch the tail end of the Brandon Pierce machine in the number 2. This is the battle for third. Tristan McKee, Connor Jones, 17 laps to go. Carson Lofton behind them is not for position. He is several laps down, but McKee looking to be strong, and Connor Jones right now just trying to hang on to that Mike Dorn Racing number 44.
And the driver behind this battle now up into the top 5, Holden Haddock for Logan Clark's Racing, one of the local drivers, using all the knowledge and experience he has at this facility, and it's paying off in a big way for Holden. He's up into the top 5.
Cade Brown has fallen to 10th. He was fast and up into the top 5 earlier in the day. He's fallen out. You can see Ryan Millington holding serve right now in the 6th position. I mentioned a couple of drivers that have worked their way back into the top 10. Doug Barnes Jr. as well as Donovan Strauss in the 4S machine. Lewis has fallen outside the top 10. Pierce is the car that is trying to chase down Chad McCumbee for 13th, and that's almost the position that Mini Tyrrell has lapped up to.
McCumbie's car has swung in a direction in which I don't think he was quite ready for after superb qualifying effort to start the night. He is going to try mightily to stay on the lead lap in 14th position. I'm sure some drivers in the field may be wondering if a caution would help their chances. Others may fear what type of chaos that may bring. Tyrrell's hoping it is smooth sailing. There was a car that did have a little bit of spark showing off turn 4, but the race stays green.
I'm about to say, every time out the window you see a little bit of a
caution.
Problem. Oh, trouble. Connor Jones into the outside wall, stopped on the front stretch. And that is the last thing that the Timmy Tyrrell Racing team wanted to see.
And I believe he may have lost the right front tire on his family-owned team while running up into the top 5. The window net is already down for Connor Jones. From 4th on the grid to up against the wall to draw caution number 5 and close everybody back together with 12 laps to go.
And I think that was something that was building for a little while for Connor Jones. You could see how hard that car faded, and it faded quickly. As again, he was up in the 2nd position, and now I think with the fact that Mike Dorn Racing machine may be parked on the outside, but I imagine he will try to bring that car back into the pit area. So we are going to set up for a wild finish from Raleigh, North Carolina at Wake County Speedway. Mini Tyrrell, can he hold off Landon Huffman, McKee, and Haddock? We'll find out after this.
Perfect time to find an affordable vehicle. Visit HendrickCars.com and shop our large selection, including over 1,000 vehicles priced under 20 grand. Plus, drive today but pay later with our payment deferral and 0 down options. Buy from the name you know and trust. Hendrick has received over 650,000 5-star online reviews. Over 1,000 vehicles under 20 grand. Find yours at HendrickCars.com.
In a world that moves fast, your business needs a partner that keeps pace. Welcome to Accent Imaging. From cutting-edge technology from leading manufacturers like Canon and HP to premium printing services that bring your vision to life, Accent Imaging empowers businesses to thrive. Whether you're enhancing your workflow or making your brand stand out, we've got the tools, expertise, and passion to help you succeed. Accent Imaging, where innovation meets creativity.
Kubota High Limit Season 2 is here. The dirt track series that shook the world is back. Bigger, faster, and ready to make history. It all begins under the bright lights of Sin City. Catch up with Dirt Season 2 on Flow March 13th. Join Brad Sweet, Tyler Courtney, and the biggest names in dirt racing as they battle for glory and take fans along for the wildest ride of the year. From the first green flag to the epic finale, High Limit is more than racing, it's a movement.
Back with you here. As you can see, Connor Jones has pulled up right to the tow truck to move that Jones Utilities number 44 Mike Darn Racing Chevrolet out of the facility. And what a fast car that he had to try and contend with in America's favorite bull ring, but not the finish that he wanted, as the NASCAR officials down there getting that car hooked up. Again, more action to come after the running of the Accent Imaging 125 here at Wake County Speedway. I believe it's the Bombers for the local racing that will commence after the running of this race with the ZMAX Cars Tour. You'll hear our good friend Wesley Outland with the public address. We'll hop over to call that one with our FloRacing crew. But right now, Eric, the focus is on these next 12 laps and how wild this could be, because as fast, as dominant, as unbeatable as Mini Tyrell has appeared all night, not many cars that could outrun a little bit of a bump or a nudge into 1 and 2. And do we see that type of physical racing up front to try and unseat a driver who has led, I think, every single lap that we've had tonight?
I think the big thing for Mini Tyrell is he's probably wondering where in the world did they get an eraser big enough to shave off the 3.5-second lead he had at the time of that caution. And for him, it may feel like hitting the refresh button on what happened to him so many times before. Blake, you poetically alluded to this all. This driver, despite having a tremendous season, they wanted to win so bad. They had the pace to win many times, and circumstances of all varying types would keep them out of it in one way or another. And he appeared well on his way. We were well within the 15 laps to go. We were not guaranteed to have a competition caution if the race stayed green, and the flat tire by the car running in the top 5 and Connor Jones put us in a position to now bring the whole field back up to him, and he's going to be in a unique position where I think everyone will be willing to do what it takes to try to win at America's favorite bull ring tonight.
Well, you can see the driver right behind him, Landon Huffman. Again, somebody that kind of prides himself. You think about going to the Valley Star Credit Union 300 a couple of years ago. He ends up losing that race to Trevor Ward, but he wanted to race that one clean. We'll see if more of that is on deck as we toss it down to James Platt.
I'm down here with Connor Jones. Connor, did you have any indication as to what went wrong on your car?
No, not really. It started getting free in pretty hard, and it's either free in or tight center when the right front grows. Yeah, it's just probably these Hoosier Racing tires.
Hard racing and a tough end for Connor Jones, who had been a top 5 car all night long, and will end up out of this one a little bit early.
In a tough inning for that Mike Darn Racing team as we see the results of the choose going on right now. Landon Huffman electing to go to the inside. Tristan McKee will play his cards and try to go on the outside. And I know we talked to him just before, or talked about him just before that caution came out. How about Holden Haddock had a real fisticuffs for Landon Lewis there for a couple of laps, but the prowess that he has shown, can a Wake County local upset the Cars Tour men and women here? Let's see if he can do it.
We've seen it happen many times before in qualifying, as the 1-to-go signal is going to be given this time by. I want to tip our cap. We're not sure if this is going to be the last restart. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but hats off to our partners at SRI and Citrus Safe. That drone shot all night long, including at the choose, has been phenomenal to have all year long. Thanks to those partners for jumping on board and making it possible as we are getting set to see how this one shakes out.
The lights are off on the HinderCars.com pace car when Mini Tyrell brings it back through the iRacing restart zone. Just a couple of laps remaining here at Wake County Speedway. Tristan McKee hard into the wall. He brings Holden Haddock along with him, and immediately the car caution flag is out again.
And just when you thought that maybe Tyrell did not get the best of restarts, off into turn one, the two cars on the outside road get together going into one. And the fans who have been enjoying some of the trackside parking in the first turn have seen many cars come their way. And now it is Tristan McKee and Holden Haddock who end up nose to nose against the outside wall.
Two cars that have been so strong. Haddock, probably a contender for the FloRacing Field Master of the race. And you can see right there, Tristan McKee getting down into 1 and 2. Haddock and McKee, it's just simply a fact of disagreeing on just getting in there a little too hot. Nothing intentional, I would say, from Holden Haddock at all.
Being that there are 12 to go in this race, and you mentioned Haddock being a driver who's got a lot of experience at this facility. He obviously was trying to keep the momentum up going off into the corner. It's a driver who finished third in track points in 2024. Did that of Haddock, finished 10th in the Cars Tour race here last fall. And for Tristan McKee, who had the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole throughout most of qualifying, looked like he was going to parlay that into a good finish. Not so much. We'll step aside. We'll be back for the final 12 laps of the ZMAX Cars Tour headliner. You're watching continued coverage of the Accent Imaging 125 on Flow.
The choose is taking place one more time. As you can see, the SRI Citrus Safe Cleaners drone cam, and once again, kind of like what we saw with the last restart, Landon Huffman electing to go to the inside. In fact, they'll bring the outside row up because we didn't complete a lap, so it'll be Ryan Millington. How about Ryan Millington has a shot to win this race? Two family-owned race teams right at the front of the field with 12 laps to go here at Wake County Speedway.
And a pair of 88s in the top five. Connor Hall, who's hit the wall, been over the top of another car. Doug Barnes Jr., who was backwards at one point in this race. 12 to go. Anybody could win it.
That is certainly the case as they bring the field through the iRacing restart zone. A little bit of contact made between your top two. Millington holding Mini Tyrell at bay, but he can't do it as nobody has all day long. Into 3 and 4, Tyrell driving away with the race lead, 11 to go.
And it looks like we'll get that lap in the record books. Doug Barnes Jr. had a problem getting up to speed on the restart. He stabilizes in 5th spot, trying to slide up to protect the spot over Donovan Strauss-Strobel. Huffing in the back of Millington, and he spins out of 2nd place.
Slowed once again is that I was just about to mention the fact that that's exactly what Mini Tyrell wanted to see. Two cars side by side behind him as Huffman looked low, contact made, and the great afternoon or evening rather that Ryan Millington had, he's going to be put to the back of the field after a spin, and you can see the damage on the ICE BCI Chevrolet of Landon Huffman as well.
Caution number 7. And what has been a rash of yellows here in the latter stages of this race, and this was for the battle for second, gone horribly wrong off into turn number 3.
Down the back straightaway, Huffman looking to the inside, and just, again, tight confines, not a lot of room. It sends Millington around. And you can see Huffman, you can see those left side tires pretty much lining that that apron down there again, you can kind of run almost as close to the wall as possible. Those left side tires are pretty much right with or just below kind of the white apron line, if you want to call that, here at Wake County Speedway.
Tremendous job of driving for Connor Hall, who had to take evasive action to cut to the left to miss not only the spinning car of Millington, but the car of Landon Huffman that had checked up in a big way. And we see Huffman continuing to ride around in the second position for now, so we've not necessarily heard of a call coming from race officials as a result of that contact at this point. But Huffman with some pretty significant damage to the right front of that race car. You have to wonder if when that car is under load or at pace, if any of that bodywork will lean in on that right front tire.
And again, it's one of those things you've worked all race to be put in a position where you can potentially win. It's a lot of damage that Huffman may have to deal with these last couple of laps, but you hope you can just hold on for the last 11 or 12 laps. And I can't imagine that there's going to be anybody who thinks that the evening or night of this day tonight, Saturday, March 29th, is going to take longer than Minnie Tyrell, because he is just sitting up there saying, what else do I have to do? How many restarts? How big of a lead do I have to get to try and win this race?
And one thing that I've noticed the last couple of restarts, Doug Barnes Jr. in the 88, that lead pulling performance entry, I think he too might be a potential contender to pick up our Flowmaster Award here tonight after having to fall to the back of the field, work his way back up into the top 5. That car has just not had the go that it needs on some of the restarts. We'll see if that's a problem that parlays over to this one upcoming with 11 laps to go. And as we continue to watch the field, pace under caution, report trackside from James Pike, one of our number 4 competitors in Parker Eatman has had an alternator issue, thus the reason why he is down in the pit lane and out of the race. And now Huffman is being directed to the tail end of the field. So Landon Huffman will drop to the back for his involvement in our most recent caution, and that will jumble up the top 5 from second on back yet again.
Without race control in our booth, we can assume that, yes, it is the cause of the incident that is being put on the 57 car, and will tag him to the end of the field, albeit, again, we only have 15 cars on the lead lap right now. Connor Jones obviously is out of the race, but he's technically only scored 1 lap down since we only completed a single lap around on that last restart. Buddy Isles Jr. scored a lap down as well. Then all the cars, you talked about the fact that this may be a race of survival. Mason Bailey, Chase Burrow, Landon S. Huffman, Deke McCaskill, Laney Bice, Parker Eatman, Carson Lofton, Andrew Grady, Carson Hayslip, all having problems in this race.
And we may not be done yet. Still more than 10 laps to go, 11 to go when we get the restart. And while the choose is upcoming, we've jumbled up this running order pretty good, with the only exception being the constant up at the front of the field, Minnie Tyrell. Behind Minnie, Connor Hall, a car that we've seen bounce off the wall, launch over the top of another car on the back straightaway. He now is going to have first option if he wants to line up alongside Minnie Tyrell or behind him. Doug Barnes Jr. has rebounded from a spin. He's currently running 3rd. And how about the effort of Donovan Strauss? We touched on the fact that not only did he have a hard hit going into turn 1 in practice yesterday, the tire marks still remain from the stuck throttle he had there. But Blake, he was telling us the team had to go obtain this race car just yesterday. They worked all the way through the night till 7 in the morning before they slapped it on the hauler and towed it back to Wake County for the 2+ hour ride here just to give him something to fight with. And he's up into the top 4 as they hit the choose.
He said his team has not gotten any sleep because they basically got back to this racetrack with their new car, or backup car if you want to call it that, at 7 o'clock this morning. So this team, I don't think, if they win though, they're not going to be tired tonight. They're going to be celebrating what would be a first-time Cars Tour winner, and he's got a shot. Got a real shot, along with so many drivers who have stuck with it and persevered throughout this race. But here we go, Eric. Minnie Tyrell looking for his first win in nearly 4 years of Cars Tour competition. One of the long-time, it's hard to call Minnie Tyrell a veteran, but he has been on the tour for such a long time, nearly 75 career starts, alongside Connor Hall, the points leader who has just stuck with it throughout this race. He's looking for win number 7 on his C-Max Cars Tour career, and second consecutive to start the 2025 season. 11 to go to settle it in Raleigh. Connor Hall trying to get a jump on the restart as they work to the iRacing restart zone. Vinny Tyrell with the lead, but they're side by side on the back straightaway.
Hall trying to use the top lane as Doug Barnes Jr. tries to fill the hole down low. Tyrell protects the lead as we got a car on the wall behind him. Then Strauss who bounced off the fence.
Trying to stop the bleeding, but he's lost about 6 or 7 spots is that of Donovan Strauss. Now inside 10 laps to go. Another perfect scenario behind Vinny Tyrell. Barnes and Hall side by side. Barnes will clear. He's up into second. Does he have enough to try and chase down Vinny Tyrell? Not going to be the case if he's getting a shove from Connor Hall.
A little bit of a nudge from behind by Hall is going to allow Tyrell to open some breathing room. And now Barnes runs wide. Here comes Hall looking low, and Barnes shuts the door really quick going into 1, but he's so sideways off 4.
Oh man, that right rear tire is screaming at Doug Barnes Jr. right now. He can't even keep it on the bottom, but he'll try to hold off Connor Hall. Meanwhile, second advantage for Vinny Tyrell. They'll come around this time, 6 to go.
Question may be, can Doug Barnes Jr. hang on to this race car for 6 more laps? Cade Brown lining up behind him. Ronnie Bassett Jr. is up into the top 5 for the first time tonight as Tyrell tries to set sail.
How about Clay Jones up into 7th? You can see him just in the tail end of your picture. A number of orange cars all trailing Vinny Tyrell, who continues to drive away. Barnes seems to have gotten his tires under him, at least for the moment, but Connor Hall going to try his best to try and get up into the 2nd spot.
Tyrell's lead, 1 3/4 seconds, similar to what we saw the last time before we saw the yellow flag wave, erasing a 3+ second advantage just about for Tyrell, who is now 3 laps away from his 2nd career car store win, as we got Clay Jones way out of shape in turn 1.
Oh, and he's going to spin. He stops in the middle of turn 2, and the yellow flag will be displayed again, and oh my goodness, Vinny Tyrell cannot believe it.
I saw Jones go off into turn 1, way up towards the outside retaining wall, thought he was going to hang on to it, and trust me when I say he did just about everything he could, but he couldn't stop the car to go around. The multi-time champion at Wake County, as Blake mentioned, raced his way up into a top 10 spot and spins out of 6th.
We'll take another look at it. Again, look off at turn 2, and you can see he gets way up out of the groove. There's a ton of rubber and marbles up there at the very top end of the racetrack. Got shoved up there as he's trying to collect the car. Does about a 180, but the rest of the field will avoid. And that will set us up for another couple of laps. So a little activity going on here amongst some rivals.
A couple cars that got together. Let me check my notes here as we work caution number 8. So not this most recent caution, the one before that. Look at that shot from our friends at SRI and Citrus Safe. And one thing that was pointed out, we were hanging out with James Pike down in the pit lane, talking to Donovan Strauss, and similar to some of the other racetracks you may see, like a Richmond, the back straightaway is much more straight than the front stretch, which creates some unique dynamics going off into turn 1 and turn 3. It's not symmetrical in the slightest, and it shows in the way in which some of these drivers have been racing throughout the night.
I know if you're Doug Barnes, you're going to be lining up in the 2nd position. Got to find a way to keep those rear tires under you because, man, he lit them up, and he lit them up good. But, again, that's one talking point when we've talked to a lot of these drivers about this new F45 Star tire that the Tour has debuted this year. They talk ad nauseum about how this tire has great fire-off speed, whereas the old F45 tires, it was kind of once the tire was used up, once it was too heated up, once it lost its grip, it was never coming back, regardless of how many restarts you had. But the one thing every single driver consensus is down there in the pit area with these F45 Star tires, that you can fire off almost just as good as you did at the beginning of the run if they just get a little bit of time to cool down. So this may be exactly what Doug Barnes Jr. needs to get the restart of his life, on the top side of which we've seen a lot of drivers who can go into turn 1 side by side with Vinny Tyrell. It's coming out of turn 2 that 81 has just been so strong.
And I know we've talked a lot about Vinny Tyrell and his trials and tribulations last year, what was a great year, but for Doug Barnes, he wasn't sure this opportunity was going to be available. He's someone who raced and competed for what was a NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series title just a couple of years ago, and then set his sights on running this tour full-time in 2024 before the chances dissolved pretty much before his very eyes going into the beginning of the 2024 season. He had to scale back in a significant manner in comparison to what he had run in years past, struck the deal with Lee Polium to drive this number 88 car this season. He will elect to stay behind Mini Tyrell on this restart. Connor Hall will jump up to the outside, but for Doug Barnes, after starting 26th and driving up to 7th at New River, now rebounding from a spin to be running in 3rd position here with a few frantic lap dash up ahead of him. It's been a great start to the year for someone who wasn't sure where his racing career was going, and he's in a prime position maybe to capitalize as early as race 2 this season.
I know we talked about it earlier, but Ronnie Bassett Jr., what a quiet night, pretty much did the exact same thing at New River All-American Speedway. One of those cars that was always running well, you know, didn't quite talk about him at the very front of the field, ends up bringing home a 3rd place effort. Again, 4th's not outside of a shot to try and win the Accent Imaging 125 here at Wake County Speedway, but we'll see who's up to the task. Mini Tyrell, can he hold on yet again through another trip through the iRacing restart zone? Tyrell brings him in. Connor Hall looking for the launch. 3 laps to go here from Wake County.
Hall's going to try to keep that fender outside of Tyrell, but he can't keep it alongside. Now ducks to the inside as he's able to get in front of Doug Barnes. 2 to go now at the line, and Tyrell's got a car length of breathing room.
And Connor Hall trying to hang on as he gets down to the bottom lane. Mini Tyrell driving away by a couple of car lengths. They'll see it back to the white flag. 1 lap left for Mini Tyrell to hang on at Wake County Speedway. Dominant all night and looking for his first win in nearly 4 seasons. Finally, he's gonna do it. Mini Tyrell wins the Accent Imaging 125 at Wake County.
Cars just about coming together after the checkered flag. Landon Lewis gave a shot to Ronnie Bassett Jr., and Ronnie is not happy. That was the battle for 5th. They're still bumping and banging after the checkers, but a long overdue and a long awaited victory and a return to Cookout Victory Lane for what will be a very popular win for Mini Tyrell and this family-owned race team.
And he's not going to waste any time grabbing the VP Racing Fuels checkered flag, and he is going to enjoy and soak this one up so many times over the years that we've been covering this series, Eric, where Mini has been so close. He's been the deserving driver. He's had the fastest car, but no doubt about it tonight, despite whatever was thrown at him with all the late race restarts, simply put, the Convenience Tire and Auto Toyota was just too fast.
2019 Cars Tour Rookie of the Year, and one of the reasons why Mini is so beloved throughout the pit area is a lot of his philanthropic efforts. He started raising money for pediatric cancer research when he was just 6 years old, and he continues to try to do everything he can through all of his own initiatives with his Burn Rubber for One Another platform and charity. The race that we have at Dominion has turned into an annual affair of just an incredible sight, seeing so many families who are going through some very difficult times with Mini, his family, and his race team putting it on full display each and every year, and somehow it gets bigger and better. He's a well-known personality and figure amongst the Cars Tour pit area, and he's getting back into Cookout Victory Lane. It will be a very popular win, as Blake said, fending off all challenges and circumstances to make it happen.
We saw how excited Timmy Tyrell was for the Thurner Road Harley-Davidson Pole Award tonight. I can't wait to see the look for that family in Cookout Victory Lane as the family-owned race team, Timmy Tyrell Racing with Mini behind the wheel, goes to Cookout Victory Lane for the first time since Tri-County 2021, and James Pike is there.
Blake, you mentioned it multiple times. Over the final few moments of that race, you have to go back to Tri-County Speedway in September of 2021 for the last time that Mini Tyrell visited Cookout Victory Lane. 3.5 years it's been since this machine, this team, this car, and this driver made it here. But at the end of the day, the stats are going to show how fantastic he was. Won this race from the pole, led just about every single lap, and had control of this from start to finish to pick up win number 2 of the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear Career. Getting the neck band and the hat and celebratory items from Carson Elledge before he is going to climb out. It has been 41 races in this series since Minnie Tyrell visited Victory Lane. The 42nd race in that streak may as well mean life, the universe, and everything to Minnie Tyrell, who is just waiting and waiting and waiting. I think if anything, they're making sure that he gets word that it's a very tight step here on the back of Victory Lane at Wake County Speedway, but nothing that Minnie Tyrell can't handle. Minnie the Magnificent comes out as Minnie Tyrell goes to Cars Tour Victory Lane and gets the job done and celebrates in a flurry of fireworks here. They do Victory Lane very, very special at Wake County Speedway. He comes around and gets celebrations and hugs with his crew and turns around and gets a moment to celebrate here. And he will make his way out to the front. We'll try and get a word with Minnie because it's a tight one here at Wake County. Celebrations there from one of the officials. Minnie Tyrell, you are back in Cars Tour Victory Lane. And if the first victory at Tri-County was validation of your talent and sort of your arrival moment, what is this win supposed to be?
Oh man, this one just speaks volumes on this race team. And it's been a while since we victored Victory Lane, but man, I'm just so proud of my team. This one was well fought, well deserved. We've been working so hard. We had such a great year last year. We just never could capitalize it. We had some bad luck, but man, I just can't thank everybody back at home, Convenience Tire and Auto, the Anderson family, BDL Motorsports. Coleman Rector allowed me to put Jesus as Lord on the car this year. Wants me to...
Jesus is Lord. Remember that. We prayed and prayed and prayed, and he made it happen.
And wanted me to kind of use my platform to try to restore Christianity into my generation. And Victorious Swimwear coming on board this year. It's been one hell of a ride, and man, I'm so happy. I'm so blessed that my family's here, and my dad, I can't say enough nice things about him. And my dad, he works so hard every single day for me to be able to do this. So working with your best friend 7 days a week isn't easy, but we make it do. And he uses, he'd sell his liver if he had to get me here. But man, I just can't thank everybody enough. This is awesome. This was hard fought.
Your parents, you had a chat with them in the all season. They looked at you and they said, this year, it's got to be you. You have to make it happen. You have to go out and make sure that you can make this car competitive and set yourself up for success. Does that make it a little bit more significant now that you not only know about, but you put yourself in Cookout Victory Lane?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, we set goals. Kind of even the beginning of last year, we struggled for 2 years back to back really hard. And, I was at a point in my career too, as a driver, I was like, what am I doing wrong? I guess I just washed up now. But, last year I was like, look, I'm just going to come into this season, finish in the top 10, and that's going to be my goal every race. And we did that. We had the most top 10s all season long. And I just transferred that to this year. Obviously, it got us a little down at New River for what happened to us. But it shows how fast this car is and how hard we work, how hard Brandon Butler works on this thing, how hard Dan does, Hippie, Colin, all the guys back at the shop, how many hours they put into this car to make it fast. This showed how much speed we've got this year, and you're going to see more of it.
For as much as you were consistent in the top 5 back half of last season, to do this, to win, have you sort of got a sense already of how big it is to get over the hump?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this definitely is like a big monkey falling off your back. Because it's just, these races are so hard. I mean, just getting the pole this weekend was a win. I mean, that was incredible because it's just so tight. This field is so tight, and each and every year it just becomes more and more competition and more cars getting sent home that don't make it. And to be standing here this year, I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of my team. I'm so proud of everybody that came and that helps me. I'm blessed.
Arguably the biggest win of his career, Manassas, Virginia's Minnie Tyrell goes to Cookout Victory Lane here at Wake County Speedway.
Remarkable effort for Minnie Tyrell. And again, just no matter what happened in this race, Minnie Tyrell was there and, again, drove out to a 3.5-second lead at a track where you're running just about 12.5 seconds a pop. I mean, no doubt about it, that Convenience Tire and Auto Toyota was the best car here. and Minnie Tyrell was just on it all race long.
If you're into numerology, our podium is all made up of cars that are in the 80s. Ironically, our first caution of the night was all with cars that had a 0 in front of the number. So a little bit of a numbers game here tonight at Wake County, but a dominant effort by Minnie Tyrell, who again started the year off with that 21st place effort at New River. This is going to go a long way, along with the bonus points for the pole. The dominant effort by him and this race team. And the next step is going to be what is a relatively unknown for all the late model stock competitors. The inaugural event at Cordele Motor Speedway in Cordele, Georgia is next on the hit list for this driver and team on April 12th. And now they've got some momentum on their side, and this was the one box that this team just wasn't able to check in 2024. They got it done here tonight. The sky may very well be the limit for Minnie and that driver and that team. But one driver starting off the year with an average finish of 1.2. Fresh off the win at New River, Connor Hall, our runner-up, is with Pike.
He may have gone over cars, under cars, went sideways around cars, but at the end of the day, even with the torn up right front, Connor Hall gets another podium finish. How did you make this one happen? Because for a large chunk of this night, this did not seem like this was going to be how it ended up.
Yeah, I'd say first off, it all started with the guys. Brian Schaefer, Slim, Ernie, Justin, Darren, everybody worked their butts off. David West brought me a really good car. We battled some issues, and they just kept working at it, and obviously gave me something good enough to drive to the front with. And I just think it's kind of that don't quit attitude, and just obviously, you know, it wouldn't be possible without Dale Kelly, LW, everybody at Junior Motorsports, Johnny Morris, Bass Pro Shops, Sun Drop, and Roto Rooter, and just it wasn't pretty, but we did it. So I didn't have much for Minnie there at the end. Wanted to try to steal one, but by the time I got cleared down to the bottom, he was just a little too far out for me to try something. So they were the class of the field. This was a big improvement from my first time here last year, so I'll be excited to come back and kind of try to build on this.
For as much as a championship bid in the Z-Max Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear is about maximizing the days where you might not have the best piece, file that performance away for Connor Hall back in your mind when we get to later in the season. Comes away with a second place finish out of things, and Doug Barnes here getting a little bit of fluids here. Definitely a hot one, a warm one. You can tell that he's gone through 125 laps of racing at Wake County Speedway. Doug, first off, are you okay?
I'm fine. Just hot in the car, man.
Second, can you just sort of describe just how difficult it is to get around here for 125 laps and how difficult that was of a race to execute?
Well, I came into it with a dummy, and I raced 81 with respect, and I clearly didn't get that back. So I didn't have enough tire to get to him at the end, but I assure you next time we do have tire, he'll know we're there.
Do you build upon this finish? Does this give you confidence going into Cordele?
Absolutely. I mean, we were, like P25 at one point. We came all the way up to third, dude. I'm just frustrated, man. Like, I try so hard. These guys work so hard, and I want it. I promise you, I want it more than every person in this field. And I'm not taking this anymore, man. Like, we're gonna be on it. We're gonna win a lot of races with this Lead Pull M crew. I just want to give a big shout out to them. And I mean, dude, we got thrown so many curveballs this weekend. So to come out of here with a third, you think it's a win, but we're better than that. We don't come here to finish third. But I mean, I want to give a shout out to my family. When I was in New River, I actually had like an uncle pass away during the race, and so that was tough after we figured that out after the race. But just, you know, love him, thinking of him. But just big shout out to this crew, man.
Hard-fought race, and you can tell how much heart Doug Barnes put into that P3 run.
Thanks, Pike. And Blake, coming on air, what did we say? We said that we could see some racing tonight that develops into a bit of a rivalry to keep tabs on. And I remember the move that Doug was alluding to there, coming off turn 4, and thought that for sure that was going to be put in Doug's back pocket. Didn't get back to Minnie tonight. Minnie ended up walking away from the field, but it seems as though we've got at least 2, maybe more, between Landon Lewis and Ronnie Bassett Jr. They were bumping and banging after the checkers. We've got some rivalry starting to build out in this series, and we're only 2 races in out of 15. Let's go to Cordele right now.
Yeah, in fact, a track that nobody in this tour has seen before in a late model stock car. So what an interesting dynamic that is going to be the next time that these cars roll out. Again, we'll get to some more familiar territory. Orange County.